Have you ever heard of not invented here syndrome? Well, that is going to be the topic of today's episode of Chi Life. If you're a regular viewer of this Chi Life vlog, you might notice that I haven't posted anything in a while. I'm not going to talk about that too much now, but I'll make some comments about why that is at the end of the video, so you don't have to get through too much of that before we get into the topic. One small thing I will comment on now though is I am using a different camera for today's vlog, so maybe you'll notice the difference. Again, see if you notice the difference using this camera, and I'll talk more about that at the end of the vlog as well. Anyway, back to our topic of not invented hair syndrome. So something that reminded me about this, or brought this up for me, as I thought maybe an interesting topic to talk about, was the most recent vlogs that have been on this channel has been from the World Academic Society of Medical Qigong conference, which I was at, goodness, it's a couple of months ago now, in China. And at that conference, hopefully you've seen some of those videos. If not, I recommend you do. It was a really interesting conference. At that conference there were lots of different papers presented about research people are doing and things like that, and also lots of demonstrations, people demonstrating different styles of Qigong and different Qigong practices, which was really interesting to see and to participate in. I did a demonstration there as well. And so some people who watched those videos, was interesting, some of the comments, there were people saying, oh, all these different types of things being demonstrated, I don't know if they're all Qigong. Really? You know, it's only the World Academic Society of Medical Qigong. Maybe it's not Qigong that people are doing there. And this is a relatively common thing. We find it in all sorts of areas in life where people think if it's not like what they know, then it's not the real thing, or it's not legitimate in some way. We find it particularly quite a lot in Qigong though, and I think there's some reasons for that. So I think that's worth exploring to understand it, and why it's healthy to look beyond that, to get beyond not invented hair syndrome and become aware of and understand and appreciate what's out there that might be beyond your current experience. So I think one of the reasons why not invented hair syndrome is so common, particularly in Qigong, is because Qigong has a long history of secrecy. This is at least one of the reasons why. Going back, right to some of the very early days of Qigong, it was very common for people to keep different practices secret, and just amongst their in-group. So whether that be within their family, whether it be within a temple, or sometimes maybe a town, a whole town might have a particular style that they practice, but to keep it just to close insiders. And there are a number of reasons for this, which go to the historical uses of Qigong. So the three main historical uses of Qigong were healing, martial arts, and then different aspects of it related to spirituality. And in the area of healing, now of course, who doesn't want everyone in the world to be healthy? But this was used more than just as a gentle health exercise, which a lot of people think, well, that's all that Qigong is these days, but as a way of treatment to help people become well from illnesses. And as a matter of competition, one Chinese doctor or healer didn't really want his competition to know his methods of how he was able, he or she, often he, was able to get such good results. And so they kept their secret practices to themselves. Similar sort of situation in martial arts. Now again, often we think of martial arts kind of as a sport, a competition these days. But many years ago, martial means military, war. This was about fighting and defending yourself against people who are really trying to hurt you. And you didn't want your opponent or your enemy to know your secrets, how you were able to get the results that you'd got, because then that would take away your advantage, your ability to protect yourself, which was the whole idea. So you kept your methods to yourself and maybe to your family or your close in-group. Within spirituality, a little bit different. Obviously not necessarily the same sort of competitive pressures there. But in that sort of situation, in that sort of environment, it's more about proving worthiness before being granted the secrets. And so there are all these different reasons why Qigong practices and other practices were kept close and secret. And this is carried through quite far into the modern age. Even up until quite recently, many different Qigong styles simply haven't been taught publicly. They have been still kept, very much within close in-groups. Even now there are some that are still very secret. But certainly up until, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, very few styles were being taught openly. Of course, that's changed and is continuing to change quite rapidly as things are becoming more open, and so now some of these different styles are being seen for the first time widely by different groups. And I think that's a really, really healthy thing. But because there's been so much secrecy for so long, people who have trained in Qigong have often only been exposed to one style, the style that they have been taught, and that whoever taught them has said, this is the way to do it, this is the way, and it might be the way for that style, but it is not the only way. And so this has led to this very limited thinking often around different Qigong styles and way of doing things, and you'll see things, particularly if you read, sometimes if you just talk to people, but particularly if you read some of the older books and things like that, where people talk about, they might say the Qigong way of breathing, or the Qigong form, or the 8 Qigong postures. Wow. There are a lot of different ways to breathe in Qigong. There are a lot of different Qigong forms. It might be 8 Qigong postures, but not the 8 Qigong postures. Having been grounded in, in a way, in an art with so much secrecy, sometimes people don't realize that there are things beyond that. And so when someone talks in that way, really what it shows is their limited exposure and appreciation of Qigong as a whole, that they just have their small, narrow view on it, and they don't understand or appreciate the other things that are out there. And the thing is, Qigong is amazingly diverse, and that is one of its strengths. As with any natural ecosystem, I'm here you can see behind me, there's a whole lot of different trees and plants. What makes a forest, part of what makes a forest resilient and able to withstand different things that come to it, whether it be different weather conditions, whether it be different diseases that come through and so on, is the fact that there's all these different species. And so when one type of plant is challenged and has problems, other plants make up for it, and they fill that gap, and they help the forest as a whole to stay resilient. In terms of medicinal use of plants and trees, what we find with this diversity is that there are all these different chemical compounds within the plants, which we can use for different things. Historically, this has been used in herbalism, all these different plants that we can use in different ways for our health. Nowadays it's used in pharmaceuticals, not necessarily always in the best way, but the same thing. We can find all these different compounds because of the diversity. Diversity is a strength, and it's the same with Qigong. All these different practices, some of them might be very different from the ones that you are used to, and there's no reason why you have to go and do all of the different practices. But recognize the existence of them and the value of them. That's healthy, because you or someone else might have a specific need, and within whatever practice you have been currently doing, maybe that need is met, maybe it's not. Maybe there's another practice out there within the diversity of practices that would be really helpful for whatever it is that you wish to achieve or overcome, or so on. So my opinion is that diversity really is a strength in Qigong. And look, it's very healthy to focus just on one set of practices, certainly for a period of time, to really go deep into it, to appreciate it, to really get the benefit of it. But it's also really healthy and beneficial to at least have an awareness of what else is around and is out there. So what can you do to do that? Well, you're watching this on YouTube. There is starting to be an amazing variety of different practices shown on YouTube now. Wasn't the case, not that many years ago. There's tons of stuff now. At the very least, that can give you a little bit of a look and an appreciation of some of what's out there. If you get a chance to go to a conference like the one I was at in China, okay, maybe not too many people will have the chance to go to that one in particular, but there are other conferences, different parts of the world as well. Go along, meet some of the other people doing Qigong, see some of the different practices they're doing, have an appreciation of it, have an understanding of it. I think that's really healthy. And overall, even if you don't take up any of those other practices, I think it will help anyone who does that to gain a better appreciation and understanding of the practices that they're already doing, because you'll start to be able to see things from a broader perspective. You have different angles on the same thing, which is working with energy, and you'll start to appreciate the different ways of doing that more fully. It will also give you the ability to select between different practices that might be useful for you or other people at different times. If you've done some of the Long White Cloud Qigong courses, you'll know that we teach quite a wide range of practices, and part of that is, variety is the spice of life. It keeps things interesting for people, but also they have different purposes, different flavors, different things that they're good for. And so understanding those different practices gradually gives you a greater understanding of the whole. There might be some practices that you end up practicing, regularly all the time, but you have the ability to move into other areas of practice when you need to, for different benefits. So anyway, I think that is that's probably enough talking about not invented hair syndrome. Again, if you're watching this, you're probably not someone who suffers from it in a big way. But I do encourage all of you, including Long White Cloud Qigong students who maybe up until now have mainly only learnt from Long White Cloud Qigong, go have a look at some of the other practices that are out there. The diversity in Qigong is amazing, and it's something to be appreciated, and to discover and really enjoy. So I guess some end notes, not about this topic, but about Qi life in general and what's going on. First, this camera. So one of the things hopefully you may have noticed is it probably looks more like I am looking at you now in this video than it has in a lot of the other vlogs. I have had a couple of comments from different people saying that they found it distracting because I looked like I was looking a little off to the side, and that's because most of those vlogs have been recorded just on a cell phone, and the way it works is the lens is off onto one side of the phone, and so it can look a little bit off there when I'm trying to record, and so some people find that distracting. What did you think of this? Is it better? Did you notice the difference or not really? The other thing is, so why haven't I posted for quite a while? Well, I was away for several months, traveling, teaching, attending the conference in China and so on, and coming back I had a lot to attend to coming back, including a lot of people finishing tests for people who'd done different long white cloud Qigong courses. So in those tests there's written components, video demonstration components, and then Skyping, talking face to face with people, and that has taken a lot of my time getting through all those tests. And then on top of that, just a lot of things to sort out, preparing for changes, big changes in the long white cloud Qigong syllabus and teaching platform, and things that are going to start to roll out next year. So that has been keeping me quite occupied, but I'm ready to get back into the vlogs again now. So I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I'm planning to get back to making them regularly. I'm probably going to aim for at least one a week, so you can start looking forward to those again. And yeah, I've actually got a little bit of a list of some good questions or topics that people have raised in the comments, both on the on the YouTube channel, the comments there, and sometimes on Facebook as well, which I can use for some vlog topics and some other topics that I'll talk about soon as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. As usual, please like, comment, subscribe, share with other people, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.